At this stage in this program, you've been exposed to learning skills that put you in the top 1% of people in our society or in the world. At every stage of human society, every revolution in thought and behavior, including the learning revolution, has begun with a small number of people. These are often called early adapters. These are the men and women who see, long before most other people, that there is a necessity to change the way they are going to do things if they want to be successful in the future. They know, and you know, that whatever got them to where they are is not enough to keep them there. One of my personal goals in life, by the way, is to change the national conversation on the whole subject of continuous learning. I have a dream that in years to come, when people meet, it will be common for them to greet each other by saying, "Hi, what subject are you studying?" And everyone will have an answer. Everyone will be working on at least one subject. Everyone will be in a form of school. Everyone will have a learning project going on at all times, and sometimes several. A major part of every conversation in the future will be about what the person is learning, and how they're going about learning it, and how they're using the new material in their work, and why it's important to them. People will be sharing learning ideas and learning methods as commonly as they share sports statistics and recipes. It will be a common topic of conversation. The only guarantee for a great future for ourselves, our families, and our society is that we all become a nation of dedicated, continuous learners. In the information age, in the age of knowledge and communications, this is the one insurance policy that will guarantee us a good life for years to come. Your main job in life, from a material point of view, is to build yourself to the point where you know that you can provide an excellent living for yourself and your family all the days of your life. And since this is a moving target, it is something that you work on continuously. Every day, every week, every month, you read a little bit, listen to audio tapes like this in your car and as you move around, and take additional training programs. In the old paradigm of learning, you got your education once, and you finished it at about the age of 20. After that, anything else you learned was either in a random and haphazard way from an occasional book, tape, or training course, or it was imposed upon you by your company. In the old paradigm, you developed the attitude that education was something that was done to you, almost as if you were a fence post and education was like being painted on a regular basis. In the new paradigm, however, you now know that education is a lifelong process. The only real difference between people with regard to education is whether or not they are good at it. People who are good at continuous, lifelong learning are the people who move to the front and stay to the front in every field in our society. People who are poor at it for one reason or another are people whose futures are increasingly limited. The future belongs to the competent. The future belongs to those people who acquire and apply the knowledge and skills they need to do an excellent job in the areas of their lives and work that are most important. In the previous sessions, we've talked about the 4 basic stages of learning. In stage 1, you learn how to get yourself relaxed, confident, and ready for learning, for taking in new information. In the second stage, you learned how to get the facts in ways that suit your unique learning preferences and your special type of mind and thinking. In the third stage, you learned how to explore what you are learning, using the full range of your intelligences to understand it better from more than one point of view. In the fourth stage, you learned to make a deliberate effort to remember what you learn. You became familiar with the most popular and powerful memory techniques ever developed. You know, of course, that you develop an excellent memory by practicing these techniques, just as you become an excellent typist by practicing with a typewriter. In this session, you're going to learn the final 2 stages: how to demonstrate what you have learned, that you really understand the subject and can put it into practice, and how to review and reflect on the process of learning so that you can improve it the next time. To begin then, what you have to do in stage 5 is to test, practice, and use what you have learned so that you can make it your own personal property. There are 3 ways to show that you know or to demonstrate your knowledge to yourself and others. Remember, no one ever becomes an expert overnight. However, you can become an expert eventually by taking these 3 steps. First, test yourself to make sure that you have understood what you have learned. Second, practice to become confident and fluent with the new material. All learning requires practice and becoming actively involved with the new material. Other than that, it just drifts away or evaporates like water on a hot day. Third, use the material to make it a part of you. Apply it in your daily life until it soaks in to your deeper levels of mind. Whatever you're learning, there's a point where you are a beginner. At this point, testing is very important. A test is a chance to explore the limits of what you can currently do, or what you currently know. It's an opportunity and not a threat, as it may have been when you were going to school. It is something that you should look forward to. Remember, you can't hit a target you can't see. When you test yourself regularly, you can see clearly what it is you need to learn to get ahead. Testing yourself should be a straightforward check on your ability to do what you have been learning. So don't worry about doing it quickly or effortlessly. All you're concerned with is checking to see if you've got it or not. This is where the techniques that you've already learned can help you. For example, if it's information you're learning, try going over your memory maps or your notes. You can try memory flashing to see how much of it you remember. You can test yourself with flashcards as well. You can create a mental movie of what you've learned. Whenever I'm planning a talk that consists of, let us say, 10 points, I write them out in detail and then mentally go over them one at a time until I can give the entire talk without notes. By doing this repeatedly, I can often do an entire day of speaking, sometimes 2 and 3 days, and never refer to notes at all. And it's not because I'm particularly brilliant. It's simply because I have used these accelerated learning techniques. A wonderful way to learn a new language is by using flashcards with the foreign word or phrase on one side and the English word or phrase on the other. With flashcards, you can test yourself and have other people test you. Often, steps 2 and 3, practicing to become confident and using it to make it a part of you, are combined. You can practice what you've learned by immediately putting it to use. For some people, however, practice is a much-needed intermediate stepping stone since it builds confidence for the real-life use of new skills. In every skill, you have to think about it consciously and deliberately at the beginning. Remember how you learned how to ride a bicycle. You had to concentrate on what you were doing. It felt awkward at first, and you even fell off a few times. Gradually, as you practiced, it then became easier and easier. Eventually, it became an unconscious skill. You no longer need to even think about riding a bicycle. You just do it instinctively. When you practice the accelerated learning techniques in this program over and over, any subject that you attack will eventually become second nature. Then you'll find that learning is fast, easy, and fun. Moving from beginner to expert in any subject depends on your practicing. The typical comment made about experts is that he or she makes it look so easy. This is because the expert has thoroughly mastered the subject. The easy, natural confidence of the expert comes from familiarity through practice. Whatever you want to learn, simple or complex, you need to spend a considerable amount of time to practice the knowledge or skill. You need to apply it in a real-life situation. You need to practice it at work. A good idea is to practice it in advance of actually using it so that you feel really confident with the material when you actually apply it in the real world. There are 2 excellent ways for you to practice something before you use it in real life. These 2 ways will help you to build confidence, to anticipate problems, and to make plans to use the material more effectively. The first is mental rehearsal. This requires that you use your imagination to see yourself actually using what you have learned. This technique is used by all champion athletes and performers in virtually every field to practice their performance in their minds before they actually do it in reality. The way you use mental rehearsal is to build up a full and detailed picture of yourself in a real-life situation and then see yourself in your mind's eye performing well. This is a great way to build self-confidence, and it will actually improve your performance when you try it out in the real world. Gary Player, the golfer, once said the most important 3 hours that he spends in any golf game is the 3 hours on the airplane prior to the game where he goes over the entire course in his mind. In order to learn a new language faster, visualize yourself using the language in a real-life situation. Then, Practice the conversation using the same gestures and body language that you might use in talking with another person in that language. The proven way to use mental rehearsal most effectively is for you to sit in a comfortable chair, close your eyes, and breathe deeply 7 to 10 times. Then, in a state of deep relaxation, visualize yourself performing the new skill in an excellent fashion. Go over it in your mind several times while you're deeply relaxed. This programs the new skill into your subconscious mind so that when you actually try it in reality, your subconscious mind will have already learned how to do it right. It's amazing how effective this skill of mental rehearsal can be in learning virtually any subject. The second way to practice something before you use it is by role-playing. Role-playing requires that you either act out what you've learned by yourself or with someone else. If what you're going to do eventually involves other people, get someone else to work with you to practice how you go about it. This way you can hear and test out what you're going to say and how well it works. Role-playing gives you another chance to improve or refine your skills before you use them for real. It's a great confidence builder. As you can see, visualizing and role-playing activate your visual, auditory, and physical senses and increase the speed at which you internalize the information. The third stage of showing you know is to use the material. You really have succeeded in learning when you can use what you have learned independently and away from the situation where you first learned it. This is where you bring the material to life. This final step in showing you know is essential because it's where you use what you have learned in different ways and for different purposes. It enables you to develop and improve on it and really make it a part of you. It's one thing to learn to use a computer at a seminar or in a training session, but it is quite another for you to use your skills in the workplace. It's an even higher level of difficulty for you to explain what you have learned to someone else, but it's very powerful. It requires a certain amount of courage to transfer something that you've learned in the classroom into real life. To use something new means that there's a possibility of making mistakes. There's a certain amount of risk involved. It requires that you develop the courage to face the possibility that you may do it poorly at first. The person who does not make mistakes does not make anything, including progress. Too often you feel that errors reflect on you as an individual, and as a result they affect your self-esteem. But this is a matter of your perception, not your reality. An error should be seen as completely separate from the person who makes it. In other words, you are not your mistakes. You are you, and your mistakes are something else, as if they were in another room. If you do something incorrectly, this doesn't mean that you are a failure. It just means that you have not yet grasped the subject thoroughly. It means that you have not yet found the correct way to do it. And that is just a matter of time. Remember, you can learn anything you need to learn to achieve any goal that you can set for yourself. There are no limits. Any errors you make are helpful feedback about how you are progressing. They clarify any areas of doubt or uncertainty. They tell you where you will have to spend a little bit more time. They indicate what areas you might have to explore more deeply. So every error you make is actually a sign of progress towards your goal of fluency in the subject. Mistakes are just the signposts on the road to success. I've found that all of life is 2 steps forward and 1 step back. The more mistakes you make, and the faster you make those mistakes and learn from them, the faster you move ahead towards your goals. Thomas J. Watson Sr. was once asked by a young journalist how he could be more successful faster. Watson told him, "If you want to be more successful faster, you must double your rate of failure." It's the same with learning. If you want to learn faster and become smarter and more competent in your field, you must double the rate of mistakes you make as you move forward. Mistakes represent an opportunity for you to see what you need to pay more attention to. So concentrate not on how many mistakes you have made, but on what type of mistakes they are. In one example, a math student who felt depressed because he was making 39 mistakes out of 100 finally realized that he was really making the same type of mistake over and over again. Once he recognized the type of mistake and corrected it, he started getting 100% on all of his tests. This may be the same for you. Some of the most important breakthrough research in psychology in the last few years has to do with a positive mental attitude versus a negative mental attitude. The bottom line of 25 years of research is that positive people are those who explain things to themselves in a positive way. Negative people are those who explain and interpret things that happen to them in a negative way. You can become a positive person by constantly looking for the good, looking for the valuable lesson or what you can learn from every experience. Remember, it's not important always to be right. What is important is to treat each mistake as an opportunity to learn. If the fruit of any tree is out on the limb, you're bound to fall off quite regularly if you go after the fruit. Progress means taking risks, and risks inevitably entail making some mistakes. The important thing to remember is that failures are only temporary. One of the things that happens with formal learning, the learning you go through at school or university, is that you get used to having other people judge you and mark your work. However, it's much better when you start becoming the judge of your own work. This is why this fifth stage of showing you know is so important in the learning process. It's where you set your own standards and then you check your own performance against them. Remember, anything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first, and it's often worth doing poorly several times before you master it. Many people try a new subject or skill once or twice, and because they're not yet proficient at it, they assume that they have no natural facility for it, and they give up. But this is not for you. Your job is to do it over and over again until you have mastered it, knowing that there's no subject that you cannot master if you are patient enough with yourself and persistent enough with the material. If you're a student of any kind, get into the habit of looking at your own work before you hand it in or pass on to other work. What grade would you give it? Is it up to your own highest standards? If you hand it in to a teacher, when you get it back, ask what you could have done to get an A on the assignment. If possible, ask the teacher to show you an assignment for which he or she gave an A, and then pattern your subsequent assignments after that. You can accelerate your learning by making a real attempt to involve your family in your learning of a new subject. If you let them help you, for example, by asking them to listen while you explain what you have learned, they are also likely to gain from it. When your family is involved and understands what it is you're trying to achieve and why, they will be less likely to feel resentment about the time you take away from them to devote to learning. Another way to learn with the support of others is to find yourself a learning partner. This is somebody who is also trying to learn and understand the same subject. You can offer each other your support as you explore the subject, and you can regularly quiz each other to check how you are doing. With a learning partner, you can not only test each other, but you can compare your approach to the material with someone else. You can often learn twice as fast. When two people learn and teach together, they both benefit. Another way of testing your knowledge is to form learning circles for a new subject, especially at work. Learning circles are groups of people who are tackling the same material and getting together informally to share their experiences, questions, and findings. It's a very effective technique, and it works extremely well with groups of people who want to learn a foreign language in a corporation or organization. Another technique is to find yourself a mentor. A mentor is someone who is well ahead of you in the field and who is highly skilled in the area you are learning about. This is a person who will be encouraging, supportive, and a source of further information to you. A mentor should be someone with whom you feel comfortable and who can offer positive feedback, constructive criticism, and new ideas for you to try out. You can also learn from his or her mistakes. A good mentor can tell you some of the things that he or she has tried that have not worked, and save you the time and expense of learning these things all by yourself. You should always watch other people who are doing what you are doing and take careful note of how they use the skills that you are learning. Look at the different settings and circumstances in which they put them to use. Ask the best people in your field to explain how they do what they do. This kind of informal teaching allows you to hear and see a completely different view of the subject you're attempting to learn. Research shows that when you learn from more than one person, you are twice as likely to use the skill in different situations. If you're in sales, for example, you should be looking for every opportunity to get feedback on your performance. The fact is that you simply cannot get any better by yourself. You've got to have feedback of some kind. Feedback is the breakfast of champions. You should use role-playing of your sales presentations with other salespeople in your office. Whenever possible, videotape the role-playing. Then, play back the videotapes with others and get their candid comments on how you look and how you come across. You can learn more from watching yourself perform on videotape in a few minutes than you could in a few months trying to figure it out by yourself. One of the best ways for you to learn in sales is to have someone accompany you on sales calls. Have them come along and sit quietly and observe what you do and how you do it. Have them give you feedback afterwards. This kind of coaching and counseling can enable you to make more progress in a month than you might make in a year on your own. If you're in management and you want to become better, use what is called the 360-degree technique of learning. You can use this method in one of two ways. Its purpose is for you to get feedback from all the people around you so that you know how well you're doing. The first way to use this technique is for you to send out anonymous questionnaires to all the people around you to fill out and send back. Sometimes you can use an outside consultant for this, as many companies do. These questionnaires ask your peers and subordinates, and often your superiors, to give you honest feedback on how you're performing at every part of the management process. You'll be quite surprised at the results. The way you see yourself and the way that others see you will often be dramatically different. But it's only when you get this kind of honest feedback that you'll be able to improve. A second way you can use this, if you have the courage to do so, is to invite your staff to give you candid feedback on your performance. Have them tell you directly what they like and what they don't like. Have them share with you what they perceive to be your strengths and your weaknesses. Ask them to tell you what they feel you could do to be a better manager and to help them to do their jobs better. If you're willing to invite this kind of 360-degree feedback, there are two powerful expressions that you can use to stop yourself from defending or explaining and thereby bringing the session to a grinding halt. These two expressions are, tell me more, and, for example. Whenever someone gives you a piece of feedback that you want to comment on or disagree with, instead of arguing, you take a deep breath and simply say, tell me more. Or, you resist the temptation to defend yourself and instead say, for example. These two expressions will keep the feedback coming, and it is only with feedback that you can move toward becoming really excellent at what you do. An executive I was working with not long ago found that everyone around him thought that he was abrupt and arrogant when they came to him with questions or problems. When I tried to tell him about this perception privately, he was adamantly opposed to hearing it. He denied it vociferously. He resisted the feedback because he felt he was being challenged, that his ego was at stake. When he was forced to sit with his coworkers and subordinates and only use the expressions, tell me more, and for example, he was astonished to learn that everybody felt the same way. That was the beginning of his making rapid progress toward becoming a much better manager and a more effective listener with his staff. Taking advice is a real skill. It's a pity that you normally grow up regarding advice as something that always comes from the top down. Your teachers gave you advice. Your boss gives you advice. Often advice is something that is imposed on you. You rarely ask for it. Yet the relationship between teacher and student, trainer and trainee, or worker and boss should be viewed more as a partnership, which in fact it is. You will then be more willing to seek advice actively. If you fail to seek advice from the people around you, you are cutting yourself off from a major source of information, learning, and self-advancement. And here's some advice about advice. First, ask for it frequently. People like to give advice. It's flattering to be asked for advice. Second, keep an open mind. Experts are good at giving accurate, factual information. Many are not as good at giving judgments. Make a note of those people whose advice seems consistently helpful. Not all people's advice is worth listening to or following. Third, as I said before, avoid being defensive when you ask for advice. Sometimes advice is constructively critical. Someone can criticize your behaviors and your work without criticizing you personally. Be sure that you continually make the distinction between the two. Keep saying, tell me more, and keep asking, for example. The sixth stage of learning, which brings the six-part model full circle, is for you to reflect on your learning. Reflecting on what you have learned is an important activity at any stage in the learning process. However, when you reach the point where you have actively used what you have learned in real situations, a period of quiet reflection is essential to getting the very most out of the learning experience. If you form the habit of thinking through how things have gone, you will truly be in control of your own life and your own learning. When we analyze successful people in any area of life, but especially with regard to learning, we find that they have three qualities that make them stand out from the average. First, they've developed the ability to create a clear vision of what they will be like and how they will be performing when they master the new subject. This vision intensifies their levels of commitment, determination, and motivation to make the vision a reality. They start with a clear goal of where they want to end up, and they constantly work toward that goal until they achieve it. The second quality of high-performing men and women is that they accept complete responsibility for themselves and for everything that happens to them. They refuse to make excuses or to blame others. They refuse to wait for others to come along and to do things for them or to them. They know that they cannot choose what happens to them, but they can always choose how they react to what happens to them. People who are totally self-responsible see themselves as the presidents of their own corporations and completely in charge of their own training and development departments. They see themselves as being in charge of their own lives and everything that happens to them. They say, if it's to be, it's up to me. A third quality of highly successful people is that they develop the habit of reflecting on what they are learning and what has happened to them. They derive every possible lesson from every experience. They take these lessons and they use them to make their future actions more effective. They learn from trial and error, and they set their own standards. They measure their own performance against their vision, and they constantly strive to improve. In other words, they learn from their mistakes, and they use their mistakes as stepping stones to the next level of mastery that they desire. There are two simple but powerful questions to ask at any stage of the learning process, and especially at the end. The first question is, what was the best and most effective part of the learning process? What did you enjoy the most and learn the most easily from? What part of the learning process seemed to work best for you? If you could learn using only a couple of ways of taking in new information, which would you most enjoy? The second question or set of questions is where you ask, if I was going to learn this again, what would I do differently? How could I improve the learning process next time? What could have gone better? What parts of the learning process did I find boring, frustrating, or unproductive? What would I do less of the next time around? Another excellent way to chart your progress and to demonstrate to yourself that you are learning is to keep a learning log. A learning log need only include a few brief details about the subject. The main point is that your progress is there in black and white. It's a record of your achievement. You can use a learning log to jot down a word or a concept you heard but don't know the meaning of. You can use a learning log to jot down a question that struck you for which you need to find the answer. Happiness is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, and a learning log enables you to demonstrate to yourself that you are making progress. Sensing progress in a subject is critical to your level of motivation. Few people can stay motivated unless they can look back and see how far they have come since they began, and a learning log enables you to do just this. A personal progress plan enables you to keep an ongoing log where you record your thoughts on the learning process. Sometimes you can make notes in a different colored ink as you are going through the subject so that you can refer back to those points when you review. A personal progress plan allows you to prepare for the inevitable ups and downs and difficulties that you will experience when you actually use what you have learned. This enables you to see stumbling blocks as stepping stones to success. A personal progress plan enables you to see mistakes as forms of helpful feedback rather than as destructive or negative events. You keep asking yourself, what can I learn from this to be better next time? A personal progress plan enables you to continually analyze your learning experiences so that you can derive the very greatest benefit from every one. This enables you to get better and better at learning and to learn faster and faster. A personal progress plan, which can be as simple as a spiral notebook into which you write on an occasional basis, allows you to assess yourself as you go along. It assures that you will be more and more responsible for your own learning. It puts you in the driver's seat of your own future. A personal progress plan also allows you to give yourself rewards for success. Each time you recognize and reward yourself for a step forward, you unconsciously motivate yourself to learn better and faster next time. Bit by bit, learning becomes a pleasurable habit that you look forward to each time. Finally, a personal progress plan becomes like a blueprint that measures not only how well you're doing, but where you will want to go in the future with your learning. Each new piece of knowledge opens up other possibilities. When you review your own performance on a regular basis, you become more and more alert for new opportunities to move ahead. In the final analysis, all great achievements in life have been accomplished by people acting on their beliefs and convictions in the pursuit of their own visions. All great achievements in life are individual. You've never seen a statue erected to a committee. It is always the individual achievement of the individual person that stands out. And there is perhaps no area where this is more important or more obvious than in the area of learning. One of the main messages from this course is that you learn well and easily when you start playing to your individual strengths. However, you really begin to accelerate your learning when you use all your senses and all your intelligences. In other words, when you use your full potential for growth and development. All of the ideas and techniques you have learned in this program are possibilities for everyone, not just for specific people with specific learning preferences or dominant intelligences. You may feel more comfortable or less comfortable with some of these ideas or concepts. That's normal and natural. Your job is to expand out of your comfort zone and to learn how to learn more effectively by trying different methods and techniques that you may not have tried before, primarily because you didn't know about them before. Success comes when you move the edge of your comfort zone outward and you attempt something new and challenging. Meeting and overcoming challenges, especially self-imposed challenges, is an absolute requirement for ongoing personal and professional development. Some of your happiest moments will be when you stretch yourself to reach new heights and develop new skills. Just think, which would you enjoy more? To play a game and win easily, or to play a game where you have to stretch all of your abilities to win? When you become aware of your preferences and strengths and use them on a regular basis, you will find that learning is easier and faster. When you push to the edge of your comfort zone and learn a wide range of techniques, including difficult and challenging ones, you will find yourself using the whole range of your intelligences. You will then be much better equipped for lifelong learning and lifelong success. When you apply stages 1 through 6 until they become as natural to you as breathing in and breathing out, you will have truly become an accelerated learner.